Hey everybody, it's Leah. How are you? I hope this finds you doing really well. I hope you're home. I hope you're safe. I hope you're sound. I hope you're getting used to this new normal. Oh my goodness. Uncharted territory for all of us. I just wanted to reach out to you because there are so many different financial relief options out there that it's crazy confusing. And I don't know if you're like me, if you're kind of overwhelmed and you don't know where to start. And there's lots of stuff, mortgages are due and property taxes are due and lots of things are coming due for everybody. And then small business owners, just so many implications. So I thought I would just reach out and in the light of helping each other, because I don't know about you, but for me, it's been so cool to see how everybody is helping each other. And on that note, actually, a little shout out to Letty, who taught me how to dye my own hair yesterday. I haven't done that in 40,000 forever. I can't say I was a very good student, but I tried to understand what she was telling me, but I'm so appreciative for her guidance. Thank you, Letty, so much. So in that light, here's what happened on Tuesday in my life. So I'm talking to a friend who's also a client, but a dear, dear friend of mine. And she has a small business. And we're talking about how are you feeling? How are you getting through? April 1's coming up, payroll's coming up. And she has every intention of paying it and keeping people. She wants to keep her people, but the pressure is mounting. And, I have a special place in my heart for small business owners, being one of them. They are courageous to take out debt, to make commitments before you know if the revenue is going to come. Everybody else gets fed first before they get fed. I just think they're so courageous. And so I'm talking to this client and she is just chatting about all the different, how you're moving one P to the other side and how to make that do. And if, I don't know if you're aware, but that's what small business owners do every single month. How do I keep the lights on? No matter how well you're doing, it's a juggle. The better you're doing, obviously, the better, but it's still a juggle, and it's not for the faint of heart. So anyway, I'm talking to her, and she's talking about copier bills and rent, and $10,000 in rent, and this amount in payroll, and it's just mounting up and up and up and up. And as we're talking, she then reveals that she just got diagnosed with cancer. Oh, and which is my norm, if you know me, then you know this, I said, let me jump in and help you. And she was like, oh my God, that'd be amazing. So there's so many programs out there. She's thinking she's going to take out a loan at 3.75% interest rate, which is a great rate, but still it's a loan. And she's worried about like stacking up the debt when you don't know where the income's coming in. Anyway, I don't know about you, but for me, when I have the opportunity to help somebody else, I just jump into action. Whereas if it's just about me, like I might be a little slower to act. So because it was for her, I jumped way in. And in the last 2 days, since Tuesday, I've done a really deep dive on all the programs that are out there. Stimulus 3, which is known as the Payroll Protection Program, the unemployment insurance and mortgage forbearance and property taxes, and just a whole, there's probably 8 programs. And they all have their own unique details, and some of them are a loan and some of them are a grant. And so I've done a really deep dive to help her be able to focus her on exactly what she wants. So I've kind of gathered the program details. Who does it apply to? What's the maximum amount? Is it a loan or is it a grant? If it's a loan, what's the interest rate? When does it need to be paid back? When can I start applying? What's the latest I can apply? What is it supposed to cover? what's the application, the physical piece of application, what documentation do I need, what's the process, like I've gathered it all. And for her, and then I thought, oh my gosh, like I was totally baffled 2 days ago, like where do I start? And I bet you other people are too, hence this video to you. So if I can be out of helping her, if I can also help you figure out where to start, by no means am I an expert. I have just kind of gathered all the information in one easy place. All these different programs. Now there are a couple of programs where there's not a lot of detail out yet, quite honestly, so I'm updating it twice a day. But for example, the additional unemployment insurance, not a lot of detail yet. At least as of 9 o'clock this morning, there weren't, but I'll check in again in a little while. We know that it's supposedly $600, but there's, anyway, not everything is going to apply to everybody who's getting this. So my invitation to you is if you would like some help navigating the waters so you don't need to spend 10, 12 hours like I did putting together the pieces, if I can help you as a resource to give you the information, just call me. And let's talk about what the options are, and then I'll just hand you over the way to get started. Now it's going to evolve, so I know you know that because it's government. So one quick note on the Paycheck Protection Program, the big one, that Stimulus 3, if that rings a bell, the first time to apply is this Friday. So that's coming up. That applies to all small and medium business owners under 500 employees. It also applies to independent contractors, sole proprietors, nonprofits, churches. Like, it's a really wide swath. So I'd be happy to help you with that information if that applies to you, if you're any of those categories, or if you're just worried about your favorite nail salon or your favorite coffee house or your restaurant or whatever. I got to tell you, there's so much information and there's so much misinformation. Anyway, if I can do my part as one business owner to another, if I can help with having them not to have to spend all that time, you're still going to have to go through the application process. That's going to take enough time. But if I can help get them focused, it would be an honor. It's like something that I can do for another San Diego business or individual. So anyway, that's my offer to you. If I can be of help to you or somebody that you care about, just call me. We'll talk about it. I'll get you the information that's applicable to you, and then you can go forth and conquer. The other things I wanted to touch base on were, I think I'm going to, there's just so much. Let's talk about mortgages for a second. So if you've lost your job, well, that's not actually a requirement, but in theory, if you've lost your job, then there is something called mortgage forbearance. So forbearance doesn't mean you don't owe the money, but you can delay when you pay it. So up to 6 months, you can delay up to 6 months of mortgages. They're going to, if you don't pay April, it's going to go on the back end of the loan. If you don't pay May, it's going to go on the back end of the loan. What is not clear at all, though, there's not a lot of detail. There's a ton of detail about small business, independent contractor. There's a fair amount of detail on unemployment insurance. Not all of it, though, yet. But that one I would just apply. But on the mortgage forbearance, there's very little information other than 6 months. The banks don't have a lot of information. Treasury.gov doesn't have a lot of information. There's not a lot out there yet. So just know that if you're in a situation where you need to take advantage of that, one, it's great that it's there. If you've lost your job, of course, it's great that it's there, but we don't know if there's any other gotchas, right? In all of these programs, you'll be reading it. I'm reading it for, okay, great. What's the opportunity and what's the gotcha? What's the opportunity? What's the gotcha? So we don't know if there are gotchas in the mortgage forbearance. Could there be a credit hit? I kind of think there won't be, but we don't know. We just don't, it's not even being addressed. So that's just one example of a potential gotcha that could be out there. So if you have the ability to pay, probably best that you do. But everybody's situation is different. You're all moving eggs around and trying to make it all work too. So, so just know that we don't know everything, but that's available. Contact your lender. A lot of people are getting to the automated, they just started taking calls on it a day and a half ago. And a lot of people already, press this number, put your account number in and request it, because they can't process all the calls anyway. So if you want to talk more about that, let's do that. The other thing is property taxes. So due on April 10. Now, some of you may pay with your mortgage each month this much towards property taxes and this much towards insurance. And each month you do that, right? And then your lender pays that bill when it's due. If that's what you do, if you pay every month to your lender, your property taxes and your insurance, then what I'm about to say does not apply to you, because your lender is going to pay that on your behalf. If, however, you write the check and you put that in the mail every 6 months for your property taxes, then this does apply to you. So if you don't pay by April 10, there's a 10% penalty. April 10th, 10% penalty. It's coincidental. And last week, I joined a petition to ask them to waive the late fee, that 10% penalty. They were very responsive. Within 2 days, they came back to everybody that signed the petition and said, we understand, times are tough. We're going to try to do everything we can. However, what they have on their website as of today still is simply that you can apply to waive the credit or the penalty. Sorry, you can apply to waive the penalty. The bummer about that is the way they've got it is they say, send your check in for your property taxes, send the check in for the penalty, send the waiver form, and then we'll review it. And if we approve your waiver, then we'll rip up your penalty check. So if I have the money for my property taxes, I don't need to be late. I don't need to pay the waiver anyway. So it's a little weird. That one's not very complete. But keep in mind, if you're in a situation where you have lost your job or your hours have been cut by 50% or what have you, that the penalty doesn't change. So whether you pay on April 11th, the day after it's due, or you pay in September, it's still 10%. No more, no less. So keep that in mind. Anyway, this is getting to be a long video and there's so much information. I should probably start to do kind of a video a day just with the updates, and I will do that. I will start that tomorrow. But I wanted to kind of get this out because Stimulus 3, the Paycheck Protection Program, is the big dog in the room. And those applications, those details have kind of been trickling in. Last night, they finally published a bunch of stuff. So that's actually when I finished my really deep dive. And then this morning, now at least the media is talking about it. But if I can save you, those applications, if you're a corporation, you can start that this Friday, April 3rd. If you're an individual, whether you're an independent contractor or sole proprietor, it's a week from Friday on the 10th. But if I can save you the hours and hours and hours for hunting and pecking for information, just give me a call. Happy to help both you and anybody you care about, be that another business owner or another individual. Happy to be of service. In the meantime, I hope you are having a fabulous, fabulous day. Bye.